Why would foragers need to know about plant life cycles? Indeed, do foragers need to know about plant life cycles? Well, if you want to be responsible for the environment you're working in and understand how to harvest plants at the best times, then yes, absolutely, you do need to know. And there are three life cycles that you need to know about. There's annuals, biennials, and perennials. Now, annuals are plants such as chickweed, for example. It grows throughout the course of the year, produces flowers, sets seeds, and then it dies. And that plant never comes back. But its seeds are dropped and spread, and new chickweed plants appear every year. The reason we need to know about that as foragers is if we harvest the chickweed before it gets a chance to set seed, then the plant dies and there are no seeds and it doesn't come back again next year. So it's important that when we find a patch of chickweed that we harvest only what we need and leave plenty behind so that it can produce seeds for next year. And biennials are plants that complete their life cycle in 2 cycles of the seasons or less than 2 years. For example, greater burdock is a classic biennial plant. In the first year, it grows massive leaves to absorb lots of sunlight and to store that energy in its root. And then in the second year, it continues with big leaves, but it fires up a big flower spike with lots of flowers that produce seeds that attach to people and animals and get spread all over the place. Then it dies completely and never comes back. And the reason we need to know about that is same as annuals. If we never allow them to set seeds, there'll never be any more plants. But also for gathering purposes, because with burdock, what we really want is that carbohydrate-rich root. And the best time to harvest it is at the end of year 1 or at the beginning of year 2, because that root's now full of carbohydrates and full of energy that it's absorbed from the sun. If we wait until it flowers, well, it's using the energy from that taproot to produce the flower spike and the flowers. So if we harvest it then, there's less energy in it, and actually the roots tend to wither a little bit, so there's not much to gather either. And finally, there's perennials. So the classic perennials are trees. Trees are perennials. And what perennial means is it doesn't mean that it lives forever, it means that it lives for 2 or more growing seasons. So some trees grow for hundreds of years, if not thousands. Some plants are considered perennials, but they might only grow for 3, 4, or 5 seasons. A good example of a perennial plant that we harvest would be wild garlic. And the reason we need to know about perennials is because, for example, wild garlic, we can keep harvesting again and again and again, and within certain limits, it will keep growing even if we don't let it flower or go to seed. However, if we go and dig up the wild garlic and take the bulbs or just rip it up out of the ground, as less responsible people tend to do, it never comes back. There's never anything left to grow. If we let it set seed and then take the bulbs, then there are new plants to grow. So these are all things that we need to think about when we're foraging, things we need to consider. I hope this has been useful to you. If you want more botanical and foraging tips, follow me and sign up to my email newsletter. And don't forget, the Forager's Introduction to Botany book is now available.